The station called Eternal Accord floated in the darkness between three dying stars. It was old, older than most species could remember. For 10,000 years, the Galactic Council had gathered here to decide the fate of worlds. Today, they would decide the fate of humanity. Ambassador Una Park stood alone in the center of the Great Chamber. Above her, 12 platforms rose in a circle, each holding the representatives of the elder species. They looked down at her like judges watching an insect. She was 34 years old, born on Earth, raised on Mars. She had studied alien languages since she was 6. She had dreamed of this moment her entire life. She did not dream it would end like this. The Council recognizes the human representative, said Executor Relos of the Veth Dominion. He was ancient. His scales faded to gray, his eyes cold and yellow. His species had ruled 1,000 worlds when humans still lived in caves. He spoke every word like he was doing her a favor by allowing her to breathe. Una bowed her head slightly. Not in submission, in respect for the process she still believed in. Honored members of the Council, I come before you to discuss the Orion Arm discovery. Silence filled the chamber. Every species knew what she meant. 3 months ago, human explorers had found a new intelligent species on a small world near the edge of the galaxy. They were primitive. They had just discovered fire. They had no idea that the stars above them were filled with ancient empires. Humanity proposes that we grant protection status to this species, Una continued. They should be allowed to develop naturally. No contact. No interference. No exploitation. The Cora Collective stirred on their platform. They were insectoid, their bodies clicking and buzzing as they communicated through their hive mind. Their speaker, a drone designated Cora 7, made a sound like laughter. The humans wish to protect primitives. How touching. How wasteful. They are intelligent beings, Una said calmly. They deserve the chance to grow. They are resources, Relos interrupted. Their world contains rare minerals. Their bodies could serve our labor needs. You propose we ignore this for sentiment? Una felt her hands shake. She hid them behind her back. I propose we act with honor. With decency, with enough. Relos raised one clawed hand. The Council has heard enough human philosophy. Your species has been among us for 80 years. In that time, you have spread dangerous ideas. Equality, rights, freedom. These words mean nothing in the true order of the galaxy. Una opened her mouth to respond, but the lights in the chamber changed. Red. Warning, red. She had seen this color in her training videos. It meant an emergency session. It meant a vote was coming. What is this? She asked. Relo smiled. It was not a kind smile. This is correction, Ambassador Park. Your species has grown to bold. You question our traditions. You challenge our authority. You speak of rights for creatures who have none. The other platforms lit up. One by one, the elder species activated their voting systems. Una watched in horror as she realized what was happening. The Council moves to invoke the Silence Decree, Relos announced. Humanity will lose all voting rights, all speaking rights, all representation in this body. You will watch. You will obey. You will not speak. You cannot do this. Una stepped forward. We are a member species. We have rights under the Charter. The Charter can be changed. Cora 7 buzzed with amusement. We are changing it now. The votes appeared on the central display. 11 in favor. 1 abstention from a minor species too afraid to vote against. None opposed. Una stood frozen. 80 years of diplomacy. 80 years of careful work, of building relationships, of believing that humanity could find its place among the stars, gone in a single moment.
Oh, this will not stand, she said quietly.
Earth will not accept this. Relos descended from his platform. He moved slowly, deliberately, his ancient body carried by mechanical supports. He stopped in front of Una, towering over her small human form. Earth will accept what we decide, he said. You are children playing at civilization. We have ruled this galaxy for millennia. We will rule it for millennia more. Your species is a footnote, a temporary annoyance. Una looked up at him. She was afraid. She knew what was coming, but she did not look away. You are making a mistake, she said. Humanity is not what you think we are. Relos reached out with one claw. It happened fast. Too fast for anyone to stop, even if they wanted to. The claw pierced her chest, punched through her heart, and emerged from her back. Una gasped. Blood filled her mouth. She looked down at the claw inside her, then up at the ancient face of her killer. Your species talks too much, Relo said. He withdrew his claw and let her fall. Una collapsed on the cold floor of the chamber. Her blood spread in a pool around her. The elder species watched from their platforms. None moved to help. None spoke in protest. With her last strength, Una activated her personal communicator. The device was linked directly to Earth, to the emergency channels. To the military networks, her voice, weak and fading, carried across the stars. They fear what we might become, she whispered. Then she died, 12,000 light years away. Admiral Dewan sat in his command center on Earth's moon. He was 60 years old, a veteran of 3 colonial conflicts, the commander of humanity's Third Fleet. He was also Una's father. He watched the transmission in silence. He watched his daughter speak. He watched her die. He watched her body cool on the floor. While the alien species returned to their discussions as if nothing had happened, the officers around him waited for orders. They waited for rage. They waited for tears. Admiral Dewan gave them none of these things. He simply stood, straightened his uniform, and spoke 3 words. Begin protocol, Ember. Then he walked out of the room. The galaxy expected humanity to protest, to send angry messages, to demand justice through proper channels. They expected humans to behave like good little members of the galactic community. Instead, humanity went silent. Every ambassador returned home. Every trade ship came back to Sol. Every communication channel went dark. Earth closed its borders and said nothing. The Galactic Council celebrated. They had solved the human problem. They had shown the young species its place. They had proven that the old order would never change. They did not understand what they had awakened. They did not know that. Humans never forgot. And they did not know that somewhere in the darkness of space, the children of Earth were learning to become monsters. 10 years passed in silence. The galaxy moved on. Trade routes shifted to fill the gap left by human merchants. Alien diplomats joked about the quiet apes who had learned their lesson. The Veth Dominion grew stronger, swallowing 3 more species into their empire. The Korra Collective expanded their hive worlds into territory that humans had once claimed. No one looked toward Sol. No one wondered what was happening behind the closed borders. Humanity had become a story parents told children. Behave, they would say, or you will end up like the humans, silenced and forgotten. But humanity had not been idle. Deep beneath the frozen surface of Titan, Saturn's largest moon, Dr. Hannah Lee worked in a laboratory that did not officially exist. She was 41 years old, one of Earth's greatest physicists, and she had not seen sunlight in 3 years. She did not miss it. Run the simulation again, she told her team. The holographic display flickered. Numbers cascaded across the screen. At the center, a small point of light appeared, then expanded, then collapsed into something that should not exist. Dimensional fold successful, her assistant reported. The target mass was relocated to coordinates unknown. We cannot track where it went. Hannah nodded slowly. Because it went nowhere. It went outside. Outside what? Outside everything. Project Ember had started as a theory, a way to fold space, to move objects instantly across vast distances. But Hannah had discovered something else, something terrible. She could fold space so tightly that objects simply stopped existing in normal reality. They went somewhere else. Somewhere with no physics, no time, no matter. A weapon that did not destroy. A weapon that erased. Hannah stared at the empty space where the target had been. She thought about Ambassador Una Park. She thought about the council that had murdered her. She thought about what she was building. Continue the tests, she said quietly. Scale up. I want to fold a moon by the end of the year. On Mars, General Taishin was rebuilding humanity's military from the ground up. He was 55 years old, a small man with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much death. Before the silencing, he had commanded defense forces. Now, he commanded something else. Entirely report, he said to the officers. Gathered in his command bunker, Kalani. 7 has completed basic training for all citizens' ages. 15 to 60, one officer said. Weapons proficiency at 87%. Colony 12 has finished construction of the underground shelters, another added. Capacity for 2 million. Supplies for 20 years. The Luna shipyards have produced 47 new cruisers this month, all running silent, all hidden in the asteroid belt. Taishin nodded at each report. This was the new humanity. Not explorers. Not diplomats. Every colony was a fortress. Every citizen was a soldier. Every child learned to fight before they learned to read.
The birth rate,
He asked, up 40% from per-silencing levels. The population program is working? Taishin closed his eyes. The population program. Such clean words for such a cold truth. Humanity needed numbers. Humanity needed soldiers. So humanity made babies. Not from love. Not from hope. From calculation. From the certain knowledge that war was coming and they would need bodies to fight it. Good, he said. Continue. Far from Seoul, in the empty space between stars, Captain Jin Kong commanded the stealth vessel Ghost of Seoul. It was a small ship, barely larger than a shuttle, painted black and running on systems that produced almost no heat signature. 2 alien sensors. It looked like nothing. A shadow. A ghost. Jin Kong was 38 years old. He had been a merchant captain before the silencing. He had traded with alien species, learned their languages, visited their worlds. He had believed in peace. Now he believed in something else. Position confirmed, his navigator whispered. Even inside their own ship, they spoke quietly. Old habits. We are within scanning range of the Veth Third Fleet. Jin Kong looked at the display. Hundreds of warships hung in formation around a massive space station. Dreadnoughts the size of small moons. Carriers that could deploy thousands of fighters. The pride of the Veth Dominion. Log everything, he ordered. Ship positions. Patrol patterns. Weapon signatures. Communication frequencies. Everything. Sir, if they detect us, they will not detect us. Jin Kong's voice was calm, certain. We have been doing this for 8 years. We have mapped every fleet, every station, every supply line in council space. They have never seen us. They will never see us. Not until it is too late. The navigator nodded and returned to his work. Jin Kong watched the alien fleet on his screen. He remembered the day he heard about Ambassador Park's death. He remembered the rage that had filled him, the burning need to strike back immediately. But Admiral Daewon had given different orders. Wait, watch, learn, prepare. So Jin Kong waited. He watched. He learned. And in his private logs, he kept account of every alien ship, every weakness, every vulnerability. One day he knew those logs would become targeting data back on Earth. Admiral Daewon stood alone in his daughter's room. It had been preserved exactly as she left it. Books on alien cultures. Language study materials. A small model of the Eternal Accord station she had dreamed of visiting. He picked up a photograph. Yuna as a child, smiling, holding his hand. She had been so excited to learn about the galaxy, so sure that humanity could make friends among the stars. I am sorry, he said to the photograph. I could not protect you. I could not give you the peace you wanted. He set the photograph down gently. But I can give you something else. Outside the window, the night sky blazed with stars. Somewhere out there, the species that had murdered his daughter celebrated their power. They thought they had one. They thought humanity was broken. They did not know about Project Ember. They did not know about the hidden fleets. They did not know about the soldiers training on every colony. the weapons being forged in secret shipyards, the cold fury building in human hearts. Daewon looked at the stars and made a promise. "They will learn," he whispered. "They will all learn." The 10th year ended. The preparations were complete. The weapons were ready. The soldiers were trained. The intelligence was gathered. Humanity had spent a decade in silence, a decade in shadows, a decade becoming something the galaxy had never seen. Now the silence was about to break, and when it did, the galaxy would burn. The colony world of Kisara Prime orbited a yellow star in the heart of Veth territory. 200 million Veth called it home. Beneath them, in underground pits and labor camps, lived 12 million slaves from conquered species. The slaves mined rare metals. The slaves built ships. The slaves died when they were no longer useful. Commander Sora Yoon looked at the planet through the view screen of her warship, the Silent Thunder. She was 42 years old, born on a mining colony near Jupiter, trained in secret academies hidden in the asteroid belt. She had never met Ambassador Unipark, but she knew her story. Every human knew her story. "Status report," she said. "It's all systems ready, Commander. The stellar lance is charged and targeting the local star. Kisara's sun will experience a massive solar flare upon activation. The colony will receive lethal radiation levels within 6 hours." Sora nodded slowly. "How many will die?" "Approximately 200 million Veth. 12 million enslaved beings of other species. Commander, there is no way to save the slaves. They are too deep underground. By the time the radiation clears, they will have died from the collapse of life support systems." Sora closed her eyes. 12 million innocents. People who had done nothing wrong. People who were victims themselves. "I know," she said quietly. "This was war. Not the clean war of stories. Not the heroic war of legends. This was real war. The kind where innocents died alongside the guilty. The kind where victory cost pieces of your soul." "Begin broadcast," she ordered. The ship's communication systems activated, sending a signal on every frequency in every language known to humanity. The message reached Kisara Prime. It reached the Veth warships patrolling nearby. It reached stations and colonies across 1,000 light-years. A single sentence. "We remember Ambassador Park, do?" Then Sora gave the order, "Fire." The stellar lance was not a weapon in the traditional sense. It did not shoot projectiles. It did not release energy beams. Instead, it did something far worse. It reached into the heart of a star and disturbed its balance. It created instabilities in the nuclear fusion process. It made suns sick. Kisara's stars shuddered. For a moment, nothing visible happened. Then the first flare erupted. A tongue of plasma 1,000,000 kilometers long lashed out into space. Then another. Then another. Within minutes, the star was vomiting radiation in all directions. On Kisara Prime, the sky turned white. The temperature began to rise. Communication systems failed as electromagnetic storms swept across the planet. The Veth looked up at their sun and did not understand what they were seeing. Then the burning started. Sora watched it all on her sensors. She watched the temperature readings climb. She watched the atmosphere begin to strip away. She watched 200 million lives end in fire and radiation. She did not look away. She owed them that much. If she was going to kill them, she would watch them die. "It is done," her officer reported. "Kisara Prime is no longer habitable. Estimated survivors, 0. Sora turned from the view screen. "Set course for the rendezvous point. The fleet will want our report." 3 days later, Admiral Daewon addressed the galaxy. His face appeared on every screen, every display, every communication device in council space. The old enemies who had thought him broken, who had mocked his species for a decade, now saw something that made their blood run cold. He was not angry. He was not crying. He was calm. Perfectly, terribly calm. 10 years ago, you murdered my daughter," he said. "You silenced humanity. You thought we would accept our place. You thought we would be good slaves, quiet subjects, Obedient children? He paused. Behind him, a tactical display showed the devastation at Kasara Prime. You were wrong. What you saw at Kasara is only the beginning. Every world that voted for the silence decree will face judgment. Every species that celebrated my daughter's death will learn the cost of that celebration. You wanted silence? We will give you silence. The silence of dead worlds. The silence of empty space. The silence of extinction. This is not war. War has rules. War has limits. This is vengeance. And vengeance has neither. The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, panic erupted. The Korra Collective mobilized their endless swarm fleets, billions of drone ships carrying trillions of warriors. The Veth Dominion activated every dreadnought, every carrier, every weapon platform they possessed. 6 other council species pledged their forces to the Defense Alliance. They believed numbers would save them. They believed their ancient warships and their superior technology would crush the human upstarts. They believed what they had always believed, that humanity was young, weak, and ultimately controllable. They learned the truth at the Battle of the Crimson. Nebula Admiral Yunha commanded the human fleet that met the combined council forces. She was 50 years old, sharp, brilliant, and utterly without mercy. Under her command were 300 warships, a tiny fraction of the alien armada that faced her. They outnumber us 40-1, her tactical officer reported. I know, Yunha replied. Target their command ships first, then their carriers, then everything else. Admiral, our weapons cannot penetrate their shields at this range. We need to get closer. Yunha smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. Who said anything about conventional weapons? She activated Project Ember's secondary application, not the dimensional fold technology that was still being reserved. Something simpler. Something Dr. Hannah Lee had developed as a side project. Gravity bombs. The weapons launched from human ships looked tiny. It's insignificant. The alien sensors barely registered them. Then they detonated. Each bomb created a temporary gravity well, a point of infinite density that lasted for exactly 3 seconds. 3 seconds was enough. The alien ships nearest the detonations were crushed into balls of metal smaller than a human fist. The ships further away were thrown into chaos as gravity tore at their hulls. In those 3 seconds, Yunha destroyed 600 enemy vessels. The remaining aliens tried to regroup. They tried to maintain formation, but the human fleet was already among them, moving with speed and precision that should have been impossible. Human ships did not fight in neat lines like the aliens expected. They fought like wolves, striking, retreating, striking again, never staying still long enough to be targeted. The battle lasted for hours. When it ended, the combined council fleet was gone. 40,000 alien warships reduced to debris. The human fleet had lost 17 vessels. Admiral Yunha surveyed the destruction. Millions of alien bodies floated in the void. Wreckage stretched across light seconds of space. The largest military force the Council had ever assembled had been annihilated. She opened a communication channel to Admiral Daewon. It is done, she reported. The path to Council space is open. On the view screen, Daewon nodded slowly. His face showed no joy, no triumph, only tired determination. Then we continue, he said, until every world that voted against us has answered for that vote. Until the Council understands what they created when they murdered my daughter. And after that? Daewon was silent for a long moment.
After that,
we will see if there is anything left worth saving. The War of Echoes had begun in earnest. And across the galaxy, species that had laughed at humanity's silence now screamed in the dark. No one was laughing anymore. 3 years of war changed everything. The galaxy had never seen anything like humanity unleashed. The elder species had fought wars before careful conflicts with rules and boundaries. Wars that ended in treaties and negotiations. But humans did not fight like that. Humans fought like they had nothing left to lose. Because they believed they did not. Lieutenant Wu Bin led the unit they called the Reapers, Officially, they were Special Operations Division 7. Unofficially, they were the ghosts that haunted alien nightmares. They did not fight with ships or armies. They fought with science, with biology, with the cold understanding that every species had weaknesses. Target acquired, his second-in-command reported. They floated in a small shuttle above a Cora hive world. Below them, billions of insectoid creatures swarmed across the surface, building, breeding, preparing for war. Release the payload, Wu Bin ordered. The shuttle dropped a single canister into the atmosphere. It fell for 17 minutes before breaking apart, releasing a fine mist that spread on the wind. The mist contained a virus. Dr. Hannah, Lee's team had designed it specifically for the Cora. It targeted their queens, the massive creatures that controlled each hive. Without queens, the Cora workers became mindless. Without queens, the hive collapsed. Within 6 hours, every queen on the planet was dead. Within 12 hours, the workers began to die, unable to function without their mental connection to the hive mind. Within 3 days, a world of 4 billion Cora was silent. Wu Bin watched from orbit. He did not celebrate. He did not feel triumph. He felt empty. Move to the next target, he said. The Reapers visited 7 more Cora worlds that month. Each fell the same way, quiet, efficient. Billions of deaths without a single shot fired. Fleet. Admiral Yunha took a different approach. She believed in fire. Her flagship, the Burning Dawn, led the main human armada through Council space. Where the Reapers worked in shadows, Yunha worked in light. Terrible, blinding light. The Veth Third Fleet is holding position near the Kilo system, her tactical officer reported. 400 warships defending their industrial center. Gunha studied the star chart. Kilos was important. It produced 70% of the Veth Dominion's warship components. Destroying it would cripple their ability to rebuild. What is the status of their sun? She asked. Stable. Yellow dwarf. Approximately 4 billion years old. Not for much longer. Yunha turned to her weapons officer. Prepare a stellar cascade. I want that sun to go nova. The cascade doctrine was Yunha's invention. Stars did not simply explode, they needed to be pushed. But if you pushed the right star in the right way, the explosion would reach neighboring stars, destabilizing them in turn. Chain reactions. Cosmic dominoes. The Kilo sun received a stellar land strike at precisely the right angle. It began to die. Slowly at first, then faster, swelling into a red giant that consumed the inner planets. The Veth fleet tried to retreat, but the gravitational chaos disrupted their engines. Ships crashed into each other. Escape pods were sucked into the expanding star. Then Kilos went nova. The explosion reached 3 neighboring systems. 2 of them had Veth colony worlds. The colonists had approximately 4 hours of warning. It was not enough. 18 billion Veth died in a single afternoon. An watched the cascade from a safe distance. Stars died on her view screen, their death throes illuminating the darkness of space. Set course for the next target, she said. We are not finished. Back on Titan, Dr. Hannah Lee worked on her final creation. The Void Engine had been theoretical for years. A device that could fold space so completely that matter simply ceased to exist in normal reality. She had tested it on asteroids, on moons, on uninhabited planets. Each test was successful. Each test proved that she had created the most terrible weapon in galactic history. Now Admiral Daewon stood beside her, watching the final calibrations. Is it ready? He asked. Yes. Hannah's voice was flat, empty. She had not slept in weeks. She had not smiled in months. It can fold a planet, an entire world gone in an instant. No explosion, no radiation, just absence. Daewon nodded slowly. The Veth homeworld. 12 billion inhabitants. The heart of their civilization. Their history, their culture, their future, all of it, erased. Will they suffer? Hannah paused. It was a strange question. I do not know. The physics suggest that the transition is instant. One moment they exist, the next they do not. Whether there is pain in that moment, I cannot say. Day One closed his eyes. He thought of his daughter, dying on the floor of the eternal accord. He thought of the years of silence, the cold fury, the endless preparations. He thought of all the deaths humanity had already caused. Billions of aliens. Entire species pushed to the edge of extinction. Was this justice? Was this vengeance? Or had they become exactly what the Council feared they would become? Do it, he said, the void engine activated. Across the galaxy, the Veth homeworld vanished. One moment it was their blue-green sphere orbiting an ancient star, covered in cities and monuments and the accumulated history of 100,000 years. The next moment, there was nothing. Empty space, where a world had been 12 billion lives. Gone without a trace. Gone without a sound. Hannah Lee watched the empty space on her sensors. Her hands trembled. Her eyes were dry. She had no more tears left. "It is done," she whispered. The news spread across the galaxy like a shockwave. The Veth homeworld was gone. Not destroyed destruction, left wreckage, left evidence, left something. This was different. This was erasure. This was a message that humanity could unmake reality itself. One by one, the Council species surrendered. The Cora Collective sued for peace after losing 80% of their hive worlds. The minor species who had voted for the silence decree begged for mercy. Some received it. Some did not. Sung Ho, a war correspondent, broadcast everything. He traveled with the fleets, walked through the ruins of alien cities, interviewed human soldiers who had become something more than human. His reports reached neutral species, those who had not voted against humanity, those who watched from the edges of the conflict in horror. "We did not want this," he said in one broadcast, standing in the ashes of a Veth colony. "Humanity wanted to be part of the galactic community. We wanted to explore, to learn, to grow alongside other species. We believed in peace." He knelt and picked up a piece of debris, a child's toy, alien but recognizable, something a Veth parent had given their offspring. God. "But you taught us that peace was weakness. You taught us that kindness was foolishness. You taught us that the galaxy only respects power." He dropped the toy and looked into the camera. "We learned. The War of Echoes lasted 3 years. In that time, humanity killed more beings than had died in all previous galactic conflicts combined. Stars were murdered. Worlds were erased. Species were pushed to extinction. And when it was over, when the last enemy had surrendered or died, the humans looked at what they had done. They did not cheer. They did not celebrate. They stood in the silence. They had created and wondered if they were still human at all. The new Galactic Council met in the rebuilt chamber of what had once been the Eternal Accord. The station had been preserved exactly as it was on the day Ambassador Unipark died. Her bloodstains still marked the floor. No one was allowed to clean it. Chancellor Mina Beek sat in the highest chair, the seat that Executor Raylos had once occupied. She was 60 years old, a former diplomat who had spent the war years coordinating humanitarian efforts in human space. She had never killed anyone. She had never ordered an attack. She was, in many ways, the kindest person humanity could have chosen to lead them. That was the point. Below her, 4 platforms held the representatives of the surviving council species. The Veth Dominion still existed, but barely 3 colony worlds and a population of less than 200 million, down from trillions. The Cora Collective had fragmented into dozens of independent hives, their unity shattered forever. The other 2 species had surrendered early and been spared the worst of humanity's wrath. They looked up at Mina Beek with fear in their eyes. The same fear that humans had once felt looking up at their alien judges. "The Council recognizes the situation," Mina said quietly. "Humanity holds permanent veto power over all decisions. We do not seek to abuse this power. We seek to prevent what happened before from ever happening again." The Veth representative stirred. He was young, barely 200 years old, a child by his species standards. All the elders were dead. "What do you want from us?" he asked. His voice trembled. Mina was quiet for a long moment. "We want you to understand why this happened. Not so you will fear us, so you will never make the same mistake again. She stood and walked to the edge of her platform, looking down at the bloodstain on the floor. Ambassador Park came here with hope. She believed that different species could work together. She believed in equality, in rights, in the dignity of all intelligent beings. And you killed her for it. Mina turned back to face them. You did not kill her because she was wrong. You killed her because you were afraid she was right. You were afraid that if her ideas spread, your power would diminish. You were afraid of a universe where you were not the masters. She sat back down. We have given you that universe. We have shown you what happens when power is the only law. We have become the thing you feared. And now we must all live with the consequences. The session ended. The representatives returned to their diminished peoples. The new order was established, but victory brought no peace. Admiral Day One stood in the preserved section of the Eternal Accord, looking at the exact spot where his daughter had fallen. He was 78 years old now. His hair was white. His hands shook with age. He had led humanity through its darkest hour and its greatest triumph, and he felt nothing but exhaustion. Was it worth it, Yuna? He whispered to the empty air. All those lives? All those worlds? Was any of it worth your death? No answer came. His daughter was gone. She had been gone for 18 years. All he had left were memories and the weight of what he had done in her name. He wept. For the first time since receiving her final transmission, he wept. Captain Jin Kong had retired to a small colony on the edge of human space. The planet had been a Veth agricultural world before the war. Now it was empty, scoured clean by orbital bombardment, slowly being reclaimed by human settlers. Jin Kong planted trees. Every day he went out to the fields he had marked and planted another tree. Oak trees from Earth, cherry trees from the mountains of Korea, apple trees from the orchards of his childhood. Why do you do this? A young settler asked him one day. Jin Kong looked at the seedling in his hands. It was so small, so fragile. It would take decades to grow into something meaningful. 'Cause someone has to, he said. Someone has to build instead of destroy. Someone has to remember that life is worth more than death. At night, he dreamed of the ships he had mapped, the fleets he had helped destroy, the billions who had died because of information he had gathered. He woke screaming. Sometimes, he never told anyone why. Dr. Hannah Lee lived alone on Mars, in a small habitat far from any city. She had disconnected from all networks, refused all visitors, rejected every honor humanity tried to give her. The woman who had invented the weapons that won the war wanted nothing to do with victory. She spent her days staring at equations. The mathematics of the void engine still danced in her mind, beautiful, elegant, terrible. She had bent the laws of physics to erase worlds. She had played God with the fabric of reality itself. Sometimes she wondered where the erased worlds had gone. Were they truly gone? Or were they somewhere else, somewhere outside normal space, still existing in some form she could not understand? Were 12 billion Veth still alive in some dimensional pocket, wondering why their stars had vanished? She would never know. No one would ever know. That was the worst part. The galaxy itself bore scars that would last for millennia. Dead systems littered council space stars that had been murdered, planets that had been erased, regions of space so contaminated with radiation that no ship could safely travel through them. The war had not just killed trillions of beings, it had wounded the universe itself. Young Jiawan walked through the halls of the Diplomatic Academy on Earth. She was 22 years old. Admiral Day One's granddaughter, training to become the new generation's ambassador. She studied the languages of species that barely existed anymore. She learned the histories of civilizations that survived only in archives. One day, she visited her grandfather at his home overlooking the Pacific Ocean. "Why did you do it?" she asked him. "Why did you destroy so much?" Daewon looked at her with tired eyes. "Because they gave us no choice. Because they killed your aunt and expected us to accept it. Because the galaxy only understood power, and we had to speak in a language they could hear. But was it right?" He was silent for a long time. No, he finally said. It was not right. It was necessary, but it was not right. There is a difference. Gia sat beside him, looking at the same ocean, the same sky. What do we do now? She asked. Daewon reached out and took her hand. His grip was weak. He was so old now, so tired, but it was warm. We make sure it was worth something, he said. We build. We protect. We create a galaxy where no species is silenced, where no ambassador is murdered for speaking the truth, where the strong do not crush the weak simply because they can. He looked at her with something that might have been hope. We make sure it never happens again. Not to us, not to anyone. Gia squeezed his hand. And if someone threatens that, if someone tries to silence us again, Daewon smiled. It was a sad smile, but it was real. Then we remind them what humanity sounds like when we scream, but we do it hoping we will never have to. We carry the weapons in one hand and the olive branch in the other. That is our burden now. The burden of those who have seen the worst of themselves and must still find a way to be better. Outside, the sun set over the ocean. The stars began to appear, one by one, in the darkening sky. Some of those stars were dead now. Some would never shine again. The universe had been changed forever by what humanity had done. But somewhere out there, on a distant world, a new, intelligent species was just beginning to look up at those stars and wonder what secrets they held. They did not know about the wars that had been fought. They did not know about the billions who had died. They did not know that the universe they were about to join had been shaped by fire and vengeance. But they would learn. And when they did, humanity would be there to greet them. Not as conquerors. Not as destroyers. As guardians. As protectors, as a species that had walked through hell and come out the other side. Determined to make heaven possible, the galaxy would never forget what humanity had done. And humanity would spend eternity making sure it had been worth it.